Zoom and YouTube.
All right, so this meeting is being recorded as well as going out to YouTube for participation. We are taking public comment in one of four ways. You can drop public comment off at the drop box. You can raise your hand during the Zoom meeting. You can also check. We are taking public comment in one of four ways. You can drop public comment off at the drop box. You can raise your hand during the Zoom meeting. You can also check. Sorry about that. You all can still hear me, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. You can raise your hand or you can do by the phone, just like we have in the past with the Zoom meeting. We also will be checking public comment at newtowntownship.org. So if you send an email there, we will get that to the EAC committee tonight. Again, that's public comment at newtowntownship.org. So just a reminder that this is a reorg meeting. So you'll need to appoint a temporary chair and a temporary secretary. You can appoint me as your temporary secretary if you want to just make life easy for you to get you started. And then when you get to the appointment of officers, then we would move from there. So I will.
You ready to go?
Yeah, we're ready to go. I'll real quick do roll call for you,
Okay.
get you started. Bruce,
Here.
Cindy. I see her on the screen. Harry,
Here.
here. Sheila, you're here.
Present.
Janet. is
Here.
Joe and
Here.
Jane. All right. If you want to go ahead and appoint your temporary secretary and your temporary chair, then we can start the rest of the meeting.
Steve, you say you would take the role as temporary secretary?
I will.
Okay. Is anybody interested in the role of temporary chairman?
I'll take that role.
Okay.
All right, so we're ready to begin,
Yep.
Steve? All right, and you already mentioned that this is the Environmental Advisory Council January 10th meeting, public meeting starting at 5 o'clock. We will start with a moment of silence. And a pledge of allegiance to the United States. Pledge allegiance
To the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. For our agenda, since this is a reorganization meeting, we're going to start with the election of officers. As the appointed temporary chair, I'd like to nominate Bruce Killen to be our continuing chair of the EAC for this year. Do I have a second?
Second.
We all vote? Is that the way we do it, Harry?
Yes.
Individually or?
Yeah, well, you can just say all in favor, say aye, and if everybody says aye, you're covered.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Right, Bruce will be our chair. And for our second election, we want to elect a vice chair. I nominate Cindy Mulholland to continue as our vice chair. All in favor, say aye.
You need a second.
Oh, a second?
Second.
Sorry,
I second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. And now for the election of our secretary, our nomination. I will nominate Harry Bryant to continue as our secretary as well. We have a second?
Second.
Second. All right. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, I think we're ready to start with our agenda with our chairs in place.
All right, so now we can turn it back over to Bruce as the chair.
Yes, thank you.
We'll go from there.
Thank you very much for your vote and confidence. I appreciate it. Is there any comment on the agenda items, public comment?
I don't see any at this time, Bruce.
Okay. Next is minutes. Consider approving the minutes from our November 1st meeting. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Next, we have a couple new business items, and before we move into them, I just want to try to suggest that we make this meeting short today. You know, it's a very difficult meeting environment, and I think we do better off maybe doing this in person some of these items next time at our in-person meeting, hopefully in February.
So we need to vote on those minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes for this meeting?
The minutes for this meeting, either agenda for the last
I'm
meeting.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm one ahead of me, myself. I guess we approved the agenda already prior to the vote, so we're set there. Do I have a motion?
November the 1st.
Okay, so it is the minutes for November 1st. Okay.
Yeah. Do I have a motion to approve these minutes?
Second motion.
I couldn't hear. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. The minutes have been approved. Got a couple.
Do a vote.
We'll all vote.
Oh, okay.
Everybody in favor?
Yes, everyone in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
All in favor
Aye.
of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 All against? Minutes are approved. New business, 3 items. First is discussion of our 2020 meeting schedule. It's attached to the agenda here. And we continue to meet the first Monday of the month at 5 o'clock. Does anybody have any comments or concerns about our meeting schedule? My only comment is on the 5th of July, which is a Tuesday. My concern a little bit is people taking vacation that week, but
Yeah, I mean, it's always a challenge.
Also the same problem running into 9th or the 6th of September as well.
But I'm not real sure. I guess we'll have to see as we get closer who all will be here.
Yep.
One of the challenges that we have is by moving to another week, like we are right now, we're backing up against the Board of Supervisors meeting, so it makes it tight. So we'll just have to see. We can look at it.
Can we make that decision, Steve, at our June meeting?
Yeah, I mean, if we need to make an adjustment, we can do so as long as we can have time to advertise it. So that'll be
Okay. All right. Next item is a discussion about plastic usage in the township. I'm not sure if everybody had a chance to spend some time with Harry's work. I thought it read well and it covered all the issues. And I'm looking for any comment or discussion about what's been presented by Harry. Does anybody have any reaction?
I thought it was well put together. The arguments make sense. And we are in an area here where other townships are in the process of passing these. I know media is working on theirs. Another province is kind of piggybacking off of what media is doing. So I think it's important that we move forward on this.
Other comments?
Yeah, I also want to thank Harry for taking the lead on this and putting the materials together. I also thought they were very well put together. And I wondered if he could just take a couple minutes now to map out what he sees as the next steps for the EAC and the township.
He'd like you to,
Map out the next steps for,
How we proceed. How you see us proceeding with the next steps.
You know, the shortest, less amount of time would be to approve what Harry put together and submit it to the supervisors for discussion at one of their upcoming meetings.
Can I actually make a suggestion? So I have not, and I don't mean to interject, Mr. Chairman, but with something of this magnitude that's going to impact so many private businesses inside the community, my suggestion would be, and I have not been privy to this, which I think is and I don't know if any of the board members on the supervisors have either, which I would very honestly just say is kind of a mistake. I think that we should have a conversation, two supervisors, two members of the EAC and council, to look at this and to ensure that what you all have spent time on, or what Harry has spent time on, is something that is legal, because I know that there are certain caveats to these. Obviously, the sunset provision has expired, but I do know that there are some language in a lot of these that are unconstitutional, such as, I mean, the biggest one is where you charge for a bag, but you don't have it designated to a fund. The courts have said it has to go to a fund. It can't go back to the company that you're buying the bag from. That's unconstitutional. So what I would do, like for instance, Ventnor, New Jersey has one. Whoop, we didn't pay the bills today. There we go. Ventnor, New Jersey has a plastic bag ban. That 5 cents or 20 cents, whatever it is, goes towards this ocean cleanup fund. So I do know that a lot of times municipalities run a skew of that when they're drafting this. They don't designate it to a fund. But what I would recommend is that we get 2 people from the EAC, 2 people from the Board of Supervisors, and our attorney, and look this over. Again, I have not even had any conversations with anyone on the board. This is the first time hearing about it, so I don't know how even palatable it is. But I don't think it's something that we would be opposed looking at. But I just want to make sure that we're not wasting the EAC's time by passing this and then we making a bunch of changes and then you having to go back to the drawing board.
Thanks, Leonard.
Yeah, and I had some, Bruce, and I had some comments as well. You know,
Sure.
I appreciate the fact to anything we can do to reduce plastic bags and, you know, plastic straws. I did also look at our 4 biggest users in the township, which would be Rite Aid, CVS, Acme, and probably Gentili's. So 3 of those 4 companies, their decision is not outside the scope of the township. So it's something that we're legislating about, a behavior that they themselves can't control. So that was a concern. I also thought that, you know, it's important for us to put legislation out there, but I'm not really big on empty gestures. I really like to see what we could do as an EAC in the township to provide, reaching out to the community to provide ways maybe to look at this as what every individual can do and what stores can do on their own without forcing things down their throat. Because I mean, the legislation is great and it's helpful. However, it also can be received in a negative common sense. And one thing I found in the memo that I think it was Harry wrote to the supervisors on page 3 or so, it says the EAC also recognizes and experiences that shows that waiting for Harrisburg to act on important environmental issues is akin to a fool's errand. I felt that language wouldn't really be helpful because we're kind of making a judgment about the legislative body of the state. And I just didn't think that that would be helpful for us. My approach is trying to work with the businesses and trying to provide education for our residents to maybe make changes and then provide legislative opportunities as well to kind of look at this issue from a multifaceted.
I
That
think you
memo hasn't
raised,
been to the board yet, has it?
No, we've never discussed this really at this
Oh,
level.
okay.
yeah,
Okay, I didn't
and
know, I like I said, I didn't think I saw something, but if I missed it, I was gonna apologize that if it was something that already came up to us, but okay.
And I think you raise a good point, Sheila, and I think before it even is presented or goes beyond the EAC, we should ask each EAC member, including myself, to confirm that they have read everything and to comment on it, and maybe to send files with their comments or track changes back to Harry, and maybe reply all, so that we can make sure that we're all in agreement or comfortable with the language of these documents before they go anywhere. But I also like Leonard's idea of having kind of a subgroup look at this, a couple representatives from the EAC and the Board of Supervisors. And I think it's an excellent idea to have an attorney present. I think just the little bit that you already shared, Leonard, is very useful, as your comments almost always are. That makes us realize there can be legal issues that really need to be considered. So I think having an attorney present would be very helpful.
I'd like to add that I think it would be helpful to see what our regional townships are doing and how well ours coordinates with theirs, because we are certainly, we travel outside of our own communities to go to stores and all. And I think a regional approach to this would perhaps have more streets, so that we could compare what has been put together here with some of the other surrounding communities.
And Janet, to that point, the EAC, the virtual, is in February. I think it's the 26th. And I wonder if any of you have registered. I'm planning on attending that. And I was going to ask that same question to see what other EACs in this region and in the Pennsylvania state could provide us information as well.
Right, that's the We Could Serve. EAC.
Yes.
Yes, right. I'll be attending that.
Good.
Well, and perhaps Harry could speak to that, because I think perhaps he might have done that to some extent already in preparing these materials, is looked at what the adjacent municipalities are doing.
I sent this out on December 17th.
I can't hear anything he's saying.
Harry, do you have your microphone on?
Oh, sorry. I sent this out on December 17th. And I pled for people to send me their thoughts on these documents before this meeting. I pled. I didn't get anything. And now I'm hearing from Cindy that everybody's supposed to start on January 10, reading the documents and then sending me comments. Well, you know what? That's fine. But I guess I'm having trouble following the conversation because I don't hear well. And Leonard, your point is an excellent point. I recognize this is kind of a serious thing, and I'd be happy to sit down in a non-public structure if it's workable, audible, and discuss it. And I'm happy to send you the material. I got a few little minor edits of my own that are non-substantive that I would make before I send it to you, but I could send it to you tomorrow. But I guess I'm not hearing why I don't have any comments from the EAC, but they're now forthcoming. I mean, it's fine, but I just don't quite understand.
Well, I think I did send you something, Harry, I really like the way you put it together. And I think some of the comments that you made were your comments aside, and they were not part of what would be the resolution that we would pass.
Well,
I also read,
let's get the comments to me so I can send something to Leonard to look at informally, not as a formal transmission to the board, but for Leonard to look at and maybe get somebody, Leonard have someone else with one of his colleagues look at. But I'd love to get your comments. I love your comments. I asked for your comments.
Well, I'll admit, Harry, that I've been remiss in getting these to you, and I will look at them this week and get them out to you shortly.
and I'll do the same. I did receive it, read everything. Quite frankly, couldn't find much to comment on, but I'll put a couple items together and get them to you, Harry, okay?
Good.
I would
Should we
like
at
to
this-
stress that whenever we get something from the EAC member, that we respond, that we've seen it, so that anyone who's sending something out knows that it's been circulated properly.
I agree with that.
Just to make sure, though, that when you do that, you
Yeah.
leave it to just responding, that you received it,
Yeah.
if you're responding all. Because what you can't do is enter into a conversation about it via email. Because you're a group that's a public group, that when you meet, you make decisions in the public.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that everybody understands. I don't have a problem if you're just saying, yes, I got it, and everybody understands that everybody got it. But you can't make comments about what it is with everybody included on it. If you're going to make comments back to Harry, that's fine, but you need to just copy Harry.
Okay,
Just because we'll be afoul of the Sunshine Act if you start taking action as a group and taking and making comments. You just have to be real careful about that.
okay, that's good to know.
All decisions need to be made publicly out in front so that the public has an opportunity to make comment as you're taking action.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Leonard, are you okay with us sending the material and then setting up in the future a meeting with two folks from the supervisors and two folks from our group?
I would prefer it, Mr. Chairman. I think that you all work out the kinks that you need to work out and do your review. And then what I would say is let's set up a meeting. Obviously, Harry, I will volunteer myself as a supervisor, and I'll see who else has availability. So one more from each side, and then we will also loop in either Rick Sikora or Joe Catania to go through this and see, what we can work out, and see what we can work, do essentially.
Let me propose a date that we get back to Harry within the next 2 weeks. Don't want this to drag on. And then Harry, you can do the turnaround and forward the material to Leonard and actually the rest of our group. Is that a good plan?
Yes,
Sounds good.
And
Okay.
I also do, because I don't want to make it sound like I'm representing the board. I obviously myself have not even seen the document. So, this is still in its very infantile stages. Even though we might have a document prepared, there still needs to be a discussion among the board of supervisors individually, whether we can get, something over the finish line. That's why I want to see what this is. And I think it'll be better if we have a working group to be able to hammer things out.
Okay. Well, you and I, Leonard, will talk about a date for a meeting once, sometime after 2 weeks from now. Okay, great. Any further comments on plastic usage in the township? Okay, I think we've got a plan going forward and appreciate all the comments. Next item is to talk about our goals for 2022. I think this is a very good idea. And I think we've done well in 2021. And I think the opportunity exists for us to do much more in 2022 because the organization has has matured a little bit, and I think we're more efficient in what we do. Does anybody have any general thoughts about our goals in 2022?
I would, I would love to see more public outreach, and I would love for us to have more tabling events for us to provide information to community. So we work maybe with Parks and Rec if they have a concert or any of those public events that they have, that we piggyback upon those and have some type of environmental presence at community events within Newtown Square would be, I think, really an important goal for us.
Thanks. That I agree with that completely. Other comments?
I'd like to see us develop the native plant permanent garden. We have $420 still in our account. That is from the Valley Forge Audubon Society grant that we got last year. And they were kind enough to let us spend or let us put that balance into our account. So we have something to, I'll use the word seed, something to seed the start of our garden with.
Anything more, Janet, you're interested in doing?
Related to the recycling update that I think we're going to get from George, I really would like to see a way to have composting be something we strive for.
Other comments about 2022?
I missed both of those last year, so I really wanted to go. I wasn't able to, so.
I have a few comments. One is I think that we should continue to support the Board of Supervisors in the way that they have found helpful in the past. And that is, Leonard has specifically asked that we continue to provide comment letters on issues that are coming before the board. So I think we should continue to do that. Relatedly, I think that our objectives and priorities should be largely driven by and support the township's objectives and priorities and what their critical issues are. And off the top of my head, I would say it's things like open space and trails, recognizing that there is an open space and trails committee. The planting of trees, supporting the shade tree committee to the extent that, you know, they take the lead on that. An area where I would see us continuing to take the lead or would be stormwater management and MS4 as the township moves forward. Just looking to see where we can help with those existing priorities.
Good point.
Any other comments? I have a few things that I made note of here. One, and Cindy, you covered it. I think in 2022, we have to engage with the committees a little more. And, you know, as our title indicates, provide advice to those people, to those boards that's appropriate and has environmental impacts. And I think that goes beyond just the supervisors, but also addresses the trails and the planning and the zoning committees.
No, that's a really good point, is to be more intentional with all the other groups in town, because there are so many. And I think we need to work collaboratively as much as we can, helping each other, supporting each other, kind of staying in our own lanes, but helping each other so we can really multiply the impact of what we're doing and make sure that our efforts are coordinated. So, you know, maybe it's even a matter of setting up formal or informal liaisons where, like, each month, you know, we make sure that one of us is attending the Trails Committee or the Shade Tree Committee, just to keep those lines of communication open. And Steve, I do think it's helpful that you have those quarterly meetings between the heads of the groups. I had attended the most recent one because Bruce was unavailable. And I think that's a really valuable forum.
And I'm going to continue those into next year or this year. So that's, I do think they're valuable.
The second goal that I've made note of is community engagement. We've made some efforts in 2021. I think we made very good efforts. But as everyone knows, it's a real challenge in this community to reach out and communicate to as many residents as possible. So I'd like us to figure out a way to do that, to reach out to the community and provide advice to them, and advice that would be of value and actually prompt some action. One of the things, as an example, is we talked about electrical usage in the township. If we could get residents to be aware of the impact of the use of electricity, and to prompt them to give consideration to purchasing renewable, and maybe even provide some guidance as to how to do that. There's tons of resources out there. The next item I have is, this same thing, broader reach to other organizations. We have Garrett Williamson that has expressed desire to work with us. We now have a relationship with the high school that Jenna will talk about briefly. And I think there are other organizations, the business community, where Jason and I have launched a sustainable Newtown Square business initiative. And I think we could get a lot of traction out of that in terms of real benefit, as well as using it as a communication vehicle to all members of the township. Native plant garden, I'm all for this year. It was very successful last year. Comment letters that Cindy did were excellent last year. I think they affected, you guys lose your lights?
Too
Get
quiet.
up and stretch a little bit. Yeah.
We're still there. I think also with the sustainability initiative, we should map our efforts against individual items on that sustainability checklist. And we can talk about more how we map them to the individual items, perhaps at our next meeting. And I think also Cindy's idea of assignments would be great. We haven't done a great job of attending these meetings, and I think we should attend and actually get the opportunity to present what we do and how we like to provide some assistance to those groups. So we can talk about, with everybody's permission, talk about those assignments at our February meeting. Any further comments on our 2022 agenda or goals?
I would also like us to continue support for Arbor Day. I understand that the Shade Tree Commission will be kind of steering that, if I understand correctly, but I think it would be important for the EAC to be a part of that as well.
I agree.
What if we took on Earth Day and they take Arbor Day? Aren't they a week apart?
You often overlap them.
Yeah,
Right, we kind of
but we can
combine
kind
them.
of celebrate both
Right.
in different ways, so.
Leonard, by chance, do you have any comments?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I always have comments, but I don't have necessarily related to your goals. I don't want to jump in and muddy that water. I think that everything that's been discussed so far by the EAC is good. Obviously, as the year continues, I'm sure that there will be other goals or other ideas that kind of come into all of our minds that I think we will continue to work collaboratively towards achieving. But I do have something that I want to add, but I'll wait until at the end, items for the next agenda, since we don't have a public comment at the end, but I do want to say something.
Okay. Just to your point, I guess one other goal I think we should have in 2022 is establishing the correct method, the efficient method to convey our recommendations to the supervisors. We don't want to go down the road of writing resolutions, writing ordinances without greasing the skids and without providing advance notice as to what we're doing. So I'd like to propose that we just establish a process going forward so that we can be efficient and those people that we're advising can also be efficient. That's consistent with, I think, what we're going to do with plastic bags.
Yeah, and I don't think that, that doesn't need to be like a real formal sort of structure, Bruce, Mr. Chairman. Quite frankly, I mean, that could be something where you could just pick up the phone and say, hey, people are thinking about doing this. What do you think? And, we can shoot it back and forth. Obviously, I will always bring it to the entire board. I just don't want to see people get frustrated. This is a legislative process. And the one thing we know about legislation is that it takes a long time and it can sometimes be messy, right? It's the old sausage sort of saying. And so what I didn't want to see is you all put the work in, specifically with this plastic bag ordinance, you all put the work into it, and then it take us another 3 or 4 months to finally come to a product that the Board of Supervisors is voting on. I mean, the best example of that is the historic ordinance. That has literally been 1.5 years. And at the end of the month, we are going to be giving final approval to that. Fingers crossed. So that's what I'm saying.
Okay. Leonard, I have not seen the minutes from your supervisor meeting. I know that you're now the chair. Congratulations. But I don't know who is our liaison at this point to the supervisors.
Yep. So the liaisons, for the most part, have not really changed. So the liaison for the Environmental Advisory Council is still Supervisor Russo. My goal is, as I've done in the past, is to continue to attend, much to the disappointment of my wife, to attend as many of these meetings as I can.
Okay.
But Supervisor Russo still is the liaison.
Okay, thank you. With that, I think we're ready to move on to old business unless someone has any further comments on goals.
I would just make note that one of the things that I guess personally hope is that we've done the work on the sustainable Newtown, that that you would not lose sight of those that are under your kind of guide area, that we would keep working towards the ones that we've not yet completed, that we feel that we have a potential to complete. And so I would hope that we would be working on those.
Steve, is there a reporting mechanism in place yet to allow us to indicate in some form the documentation of what's been done for some of those line items?
I do believe that is up on our website. What we're having a hard time doing is getting it on the state's website.
Okay.
But it is on our website.
Okay. So
they're in the process of reworking that. And I think that because they're in the process of reworking it, we're having a hard time getting our information in.
okay. Next, I'll move to old business. Janet, you've done some work with the township or the high school. Could you share some of the information you have?
Yes, yes. And I really consider this new business because we have had, Bruce and I had a meeting, it was virtual, with Jennifer Finley, who is in charge of the Eco Club at the high school. And a number of the club members, their leadership team, attended that with us. And it was our goal to stress with them that they were really interested, as we here in Newtown are working on a sustainable PA certification, that we want to engage our students on issues that are important to them, and in turn to engage the students on issues that involve the entire community. So it was their opportunity, as we listened to them, to have them introduce us to what they're doing this spring. It's called Tree Plenish. That's TREE-Plenish. It's a nationwide project to build sustainable communities by leveraging the power of youth. So this is just exactly what we want. And the goal is to offset the school's paper use by selling and planting trees in the community. The girl, I think she's a junior or a senior, who is in charge of the committee, asked or told us what trees were available for the community to choose. And I suggested or I recommended to her from what we've been learning about trees, that she wanted our first three choices. And so I suggested the northern red oak because it supports 550 species of native insects. The red bud because she wanted something that's smaller as and also larger. So she's been doing some really good thinking here. And the red bud is a nice spring blooming tree. And then the paper birch, which is a medium size. The bark is attractive in winter. And I gave her two other choices as well. I think she got very excited at the prospect that we are involved here. And so we would, this really coordinates well with Newtown Township's goal to plant 1,000 trees by 2025. And so I've mentioned to them that we would like to provide additional outreach to our community when this project is ready, so that we can have our residents who are not necessarily involved with the high school, but be able to purchase trees during for this project. Just yesterday, I got an email from her that they are finalizing the website and sapling order forms, and that she will be contacting us when the link is complete. And that people need to have their choices in by March the 24th. I've invited the students, the leader, to come and speak to the EAC. Bruce, we collaborated on this idea of having the students come and speak. I think February is probably the better month, since by the time we move into March, those order forms are going to be perhaps, well, they'll be out there for a while. So we need to find ways that our community can broadcast this project and get that information out. I know that I've also included Ms. Finley, the sponsoring teacher, on all of my emails. So I'm waiting to hear back if the February meeting would work. And so I think this is just an excellent opportunity to start that project, working together, collaborating with the high schools. And we want to see about having associate members from the high school or high schools in our area to invite them to come to the EAC and speak about what's going on. That's our president.
Nice work, Janet. Very nice work. I think it's great. We have invited them to join us. I think February is too early, and with the pandemic, they may not want to join us in February. We'll see what happens in March.
Well, I told her that we possibly could do it by Zoom, because I mean that works if they are prepared for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would not, I would keep an open mind for Zoom. I mean, we did Zoom for a while and it works, and we don't know how much longer this pandemic is going to go on, and we don't want it to slow things down too much.
Right.
Janet, can you just explain, maybe I missed something, but what is the high school club doing? Like, where are they getting these trees and how are they going to pay for them? I didn't quite get that.
All right, so the Tree Plenish program is really a nationwide program. I forgot to mention that the goal is really to offset the school's paper use, since schools use a lot of paper. So offset the school's paper use by selling and planting trees in the community. And they gave a choice of trees for each area. And these trees were the ones that were suggested for the Pennsylvania area. So that's why they're planting trees, to offset their paper use. Did that answer your question?
Well, more, but so is this like a fundraiser where the high school students are going to be asking residents to order and buy a tree and plant it?
Yes, I think they're $5. These are not very expensive trees.
Okay, and so they're little trees, yeah. And what is the timing on their publicizing this and them needing to get all the orders in?
Well, that's what she just sent the information out to me yesterday, that they're currently adjusting and finalizing the website and sampling order forms. So I don't have that information
Okay.
yet. But she says once it's finalized, the people will have until March the 24th, 1 month prior to the date of pickup.
Okay, well, that's helpful. So the orders have to be in by March 24th.
Right.
Pickup will be April 25th, which is right around Earth Day and all Arbor Day, that whole constellation of cleanups and things like that. Yeah, well, that seems like something, yeah, we could help publicize, or, they're probably going to be little trees and hopefully people will plant them properly and they will actually grow.
Well, and I think we should get each person or each resident who purchases a tree to let us know that they've done this, so we can count that in our 1,000 tree goal.
Mhm. Well, and that, I think, talk about goals for 2022. That's something I've mentioned here a couple times, and also at our quarterly meeting where we met with the other leaders. I shared that as a potential goal for 2022 is working with the Shade Tree Commission to establish, for the township to establish a computerized inventory of the trees that have been planted and are being planted. Otherwise, there's really no legitimate way of tracking the trees. And I think that's an integral part of an initiative of the scope that the township has proposed of 1,000 trees. So that might be another thing to add to the list of things to collaborate with the Shade Tree Commission on. Because George, I know you have, for example, you've got records that you've been keeping every year of the trees that we plant through Tree Vitalize, and also I believe that you still have the records from when the ash tree inventory was done a few years ago.
Yes, and I had been working at the end of last year with the township arborist on potentially this year doing a start of an inventory of the trees we put in. So it dovetails exactly with what this group's talking about.
Wonderful.
Okay, so can we think that then you and the arborist are taking the lead on selecting and installing like a tree inventory platform or system, and that you would let us know what's decided?
Sure, I think we're going to be working predominantly through the Shade Tree Commission on that. And I know it was intended to be a start of a project. I mean, not that we would get everything done in one fell swoop, but a start. And I know the arborist was aware of a number of methods that have worked well in other places. So I said, once we get into January, hopefully we could start talking about it.
Okay, that would be great. It would be great if whatever system they come up with is like perhaps like a crowdsourced platform that residents can easily add their own information, that different people can, we could add, the Shade Tree could add, things like that.
The other thing that comes to mind is having these students participate in Arbor Day. We haven't seen any high schools, Newtown Square or Marble Newtown High Schools students at our events. And Janet, perhaps you and I can move that forward when we continue to talk to the high school.
Good, I'll make a note.
Okay. Any further discussion on the high school?
Yeah, just good work, Janet.
Well, thank you. And we're hoping to get them, have a native plant guard there at the high school. They've had some pushback, so we'll see if we can't move that along.
I guess before we move on, last year we had several speakers join us for EAC meetings. We got away from it the last 2 or 3 meetings. Are you folks interested in continuing to bring speakers in? I think that would increase the appeal of attending our meetings. A lot of this is administrative, what we do, and it's probably not that exciting to anyone else. But by using speakers, I think we can draw some members of the community into our meetings. People have thoughts on those guest speakers?
I know that Mother Compost has offered to speak with us about composting in the community.
Okay. I think that when we move this sustainable Newtown businesses along, I think there should be the opportunity for perhaps one of our more progressive businesses to come in and share with us what they're doing. Have anything else? Okay, I'll move on to.
Nope, I was just gonna. I didn't know if we were at the end of the agenda real quick, because I do have to jump to our exec session for the supervisors in 1 minute. But if I can, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to come to this meeting tonight. Supervisor Roberts Lightcap was to join me as well, but obviously she's driving to the exec session right now, so she couldn't participate via phone. We're going to each and every one of the township boards and commissions. Last Monday at the reorganization meeting, Supervisor Roberts Lightcap and I were elected to the board chairman and vice chairman respectfully. And so what we're doing is we're going around to the different boards and commissions, thanking you all for the service that you do for the community, to be able for us to perform what it is that we need to do on behalf of the residents. But more importantly, we wanted to let you know that as you have over the last 2 years, you continue to have a board who is willing to work with you, who is willing to assist you, who is willing to make sure that we can achieve all that we can to ensure that we are moving forward in a sustainable and environmentally conscious way. So I thank you and all of you for the service that you do for the community, and just know that you continue to have an ally up there at the Board of Supervisors. All of us are continuing to push forward into the 21st century, and with your help, I think that we can really achieve a lot of good things. So thank you for that. And I'm going to be jumping off of here soon.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
George, I assume you're going to give us a recycling update?
Just before George does that, George, I just made you host of the meeting.
Okay.
I can go start the executive session for the board. I just want to let this group know I'm looking forward to this year working with you. And as always, if we can do anything to help you, just let us know. Nick, I believe, is the person who's been helping you, and he will continue to do so. All right. And I apologize that I have to run, but we're making it work. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing double duty there.
Yeah.
Thank you. So George, you're now running the meeting and going to give us a recycling update?
Yeah, how about that? So,
On George's plate.
so there's not a real formal presentation about recycling. I would just like to talk to you a little bit about it. I mean, it's a new year, it's a new contract. In December, there was a new vendor that was chosen. So it's a different group. It was JP Mascaro and Sons, who, again, I'm complimentary of the work that they did during the 3 years that they did it. They had a very difficult time because we had COVID. It really threw numbers all over the place. They had challenges with staffing and all those kind of things, and they were always there. I mean, was everything perfect? No, but they were always there. They always, they never let us down in picking everything up. So that was, I'm complimentary to them for that. Republic Services is the new vendor that started last week. They are the vendor that was prior to JP Mascaro, so they know the township. one of the interesting things in how they're approaching it this go around is they've changed the recycling day. And the first time the board put the contract out to bid, only one bidder came back to it. And the problem is, with what's going on in the world, and certainly the issues with labor and with literally finding truck drivers, businesses are afraid to take on new business. They're more worried about taking care of the business that they've got. So the contract was put back out again, trying to encourage more companies to bid on it. And the second time, the second company did bid, opening the schedule up, saying that the schedule would be able to be proposed by the company, and as long as approved by the township, they would be willing to be amenable to it. So what Republic came back with was they couldn't afford to send 3 or 4 trucks in the town at one time and 3 or 4 crews, because they weren't sure that they would have the business for them on other days. So what they're doing is they're sending 1 truck and crew in the town over multiple days, so that they have a presence in town pretty consistently. And then if there's a problem on one day, they can kind of fix that issue the next day. So it's the one positive thing about that is that it gave us a chance to send a mailing to everybody in the township that we collect recycling from. It's just another opportunity to put information and remind people about recycling. And again, just get it in front of them and have them look at it. So I see that as a benefit. It was a nice opportunity to get a letter, to get a brochure, to know that it got into everybody's hands. The first week was as you would expect the first week would go. There were hiccups with it, but they're parrying and they're doing okay. They're ready to pick it up the next weekend. I think the biggest challenge was their customer service department wasn't quite ready to handle the calls from residents, and there was confusion there. But they've assured me they've gotten it fixed. Their people will know what information to give, and they should be good. I'll just share with this group, I guess, 2 of the biggest issues that are challenges with the recycling. One, and this is constant, is contamination. Because when recycling gets trash put into it, a lot of the time the haulers may not be able to separate all that trash out. And I think folks have taken on a sense that, you know what, I'll just throw it all in and I'll let them figure it out. And honestly, the haulers can't always figure it all out, or sometimes there's so much intermingled in there that it could wind up getting thrown out because they can't send cardboard that has grease on it. They can't send, all this good quality plastic recycling that's got other junk thrown in it. And I mean, we just look, when I drive up and down the streets on recycling days, you see the stuff that gets put out with it. Golf clubs aren't recyclable. I don't know why they would stick them in the can, but they do. Kind of speaking to the project that Harry's been working on, the biggest challenge with recycling are plastics, specifically flexible plastics, trash bags, store bags, those kind of things, because most haulers cannot recycle those. As a general rule, they need to be taken to a place like an Acme or Wawa has them, Lowe's has them, places where those kind of bags can be collected and recycled. So for about 1.5 years, Mascaro, JP Mascaro, the previous contractor, was able to take some of that stuff. And it was a great benefit, and it also had a negative effect, which we knew was going to happen. It was a great benefit. They were part of a pilot program, putting in equipment that could separate some of that stuff better, and they would be able to get it to be recycled. The negative is most haulers do not have that capacity. That's a very specialized capacity, and it was never part of what is supposed to be recycled or in recycling contracts. And if we were to have changed our recycling contract to say, yes, we're going to take plastic bags now, there only would have been one vendor ever to bid on it because there's only one vendor in the area that can handle it. So it couldn't be part of the bid package. Now we're back to a situation where Republic just can't take that stuff. And so we're trying to re-educate people. It needs to be separated. It is trash. So that's one of the biggest challenges we're dealing with right now. But, you know, I'm hopeful. Republic is a good, solid company. You know, I've seen their facility before. They really do take the recycling and get it to be recycled. They're not somebody that's claim that they take the stuff and just throw it out. That's not their story. And again, I've seen the facilities so that I see what they all do with it. If they're throwing it out, they're doing an awful lot of work before they throw it out, which I don't believe it would happen. And again, the DEP would be down on any of those companies that would do something like that. So I'm yammering on. I can answer any questions that you might have about where we are with recycling.
I got a real quick one.
I have a comment. Or Bruce, I'll go after you.
Yeah, my comment is I just got a significant bump in my trash collection costs, almost 20%. And the reason they told me was dumping costs. They didn't mention labor. Earlier last year, I got a fuel cost increase, which wasn't insignificant. Now I've got that additional cost. And like I said, it's their reason is dumping. Is dumping an issue with recycling?
So the cost of recycling absolutely went up. We knew when we bid it out, most places that were bidding before we were, it was at least a 60% increase from the last time that they had bid it.
Mhm.
And so we were bracing ourselves for that kind of a cost.
Mhm.
Ours came in at about 80%. So, and both companies that bid had close pricing on that. So it wasn't like one company was trying to do a gouge job or anything.
Okay.
It is labor. At this point, it's labor, it's fuel, it is probably the dumping and the you know, at the end of the day, just the cost of doing the recycling. And a lot of places aren't taking recycling. So it's all of that wrapping up into it. I think we had a great deal for a few years. And I think we're probably about where I would have expected we would be now.
Okay. Janet?
Yes. So I know with the other company, we were in the process of being able to recycle bags that had more than one kind of plastic or components to them. And so now we're back to just the plastic, which according to what I heard today, only 9% of the plastic that's collected is actually recycled, which leaves then where our community stands. If we want to be sustainable, I think we really have to find alternatives to plastic, push that, but also things that we can recycle, like metals, or maybe these bags. Our township needs to let the residents know where they can take those things, because some of us are committed to trying to be sustainable as possible, but we don't know where those options are. So I'm hoping the community, the township, can find those sources where we can drop things off, even if it means we go out of our way to do it.
Thank you, Janet. So if, Mr. Chair, if I can comment, on the township recycling website, we do have a listing of places for specialty items. And there's a lot of different items throughout Delaware County, not just locally here, but throughout Delaware County where specific things can be brought that aren't necessarily, you know, within our scope of recycling, but they might be there may be a company here that takes this, and there's a company there that takes that. And I'm trying to find some good sources for plastic bags, that maybe there's some other options that we can come up with. You know, maybe there's some places we can identify that people could drop them off besides the Acme and the Wawa.
Right.
I'd like to say maybe we could have some more drop-off possibilities here at the Township building. The challenge is right now, if you were to go out and look at our drop-off and we ask people, please be neat, please just put recycling in there, please, you know, don't just throw all this stuff in there. If I were to open up the gate, I would be covered with what fell out of it, because people just throw stuff over the top and it's a mess. So if we can get a handle on that, then I'd love to be able to see more individual items be able to be dropped off here.
Okay, well, we'll hope that that can develop and be more manageable.
Yeah, but the county does have resources for a lot of specialty items, and we do have a list of that on the website. I will look at it again and make sure that it's as prominent as it needs to be.
Okay, so maybe publish that in one of our or magazines that comes out, so people know where to drop things.
I think that's great. Yeah.
George, those scheduled events like electronics at the community college,
Yes.
do you try to stay on top of when those are? Because it's hard to find out when those events are being held.
Yeah. So we always try to put those kind of things in the newsletter, or in community or whatever. We post them on the website. Again, it's tough to get it. You know, it's tough to get something in front of everybody, and that's the challenge.
Yep.
One, now I'm creating something that needs to be recycled when I do that.
Yeah.
But it's tough, you know, to find the right way to get the information in front of everybody. But yeah, the electronic recycling, the county does household hazardous waste events 4 times a year. We always make sure to get that out. A lot of the other kind of specialty events, we try to get word out. Always looking for ways to find a better way to let people know about it.
Right.
And George, what was the total amount of recycled electronics that we had from that last fall?
I don't know if I have that right at my fingertips.
Approximately. It was a lot.
It was a lot. It was a lot. And it was a lot considering that, 1, it was during COVID. 2, they had to really set it up where you scheduled that you were going to go. They still had a huge turnout for it.
Right.
For the next time, I'll get you what the actual totals were. I have them. It'll just take me a few minutes to look up and see what they were.
Well,
Just in terms
I know
of,
your crew works very hard, George. They're out there all the time, weekends, weekdays, all the time.
Thank you.
You know, I think it would be fair to say if we stopped the plastics from coming into the township, it would reduce the issues you're having with recycling. So I think that's another argument for promoting a plastic ban in some fashion in the township.
Right.
We're at the end unless somebody has items to discuss about our next agenda. Dane and Jason, you've been quiet. Do you have any thoughts?
No, nothing right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have, Bruce, hopefully more updates by next. Just been busy with the holidays and started a new job and stuff, but for Newtown business initiative that we're doing.
Yeah.
We have some work to do with Paul and some follow-up items. Number, so.
Okay. Harry, anything to close things out?
I've been taking notes, right?
Okay. All right. Sheila, I haven't heard from you in a bit. You have anything else to say?
No, I think everything's great. And I just want to see, I agree with Joe's comments about the Zoom meeting. Will we be able to do Zoom in February for the meeting, or do we have to go back to the in-person?
I think it's to be determined. I'm not real anxious to go outside all that much these days. So we're poll you folks to see who's willing to do these things in person.
Sounds like we need a quorum of 4 people to
Right.
come in.
Bruce, do you know the reasoning beyond that? And I mean, I do remember, like, for the first year I was a part of this group, we did Zoom meetings successfully. So what was the change and why was it changed?
I can't answer that.
I can weigh in a little bit, Bruce, if you want.
Sure.
So originally it was based on the governor's emergency declaration, because that emergency declaration from the governor was able to supersede some of the rules that are in place for running meetings in municipalities. When that expired, it became so that you needed to go back to the format that's prescribed in the codes. The solicitors are looking at that to see whether there's any latitude for this situation we're in, because it doesn't look like there's going to be another declaration of emergency. And they're looking to see, how exactly the law reads and what the options might be for more virtual meeting while meeting all the criteria of the law.
I had one question. Let's say only 3 people can make the meeting. Can we still hold the meeting, but we can't vote on anything? Is that the way it works?
So actually, the solicitors are looking at that very thing right now.
Okay.
Steve told me earlier that he was having a conversation with Rich Sikora, the special counsel, about this very topic. And so
Okay.
I'm hoping he's going to be able to put something out to everybody shortly.
Okay, great. With that, I'd like to adjourn our January 10th meeting and thank you everyone for attending.
You're welcome.
Have
Take
a
care,
good night.
everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.